What's up guys, Clint Cosgrove here. For those that aren't familiar with me or didn't see my last video, I am a former college coach and currently the director of Midwest Scouting at National Preps, where we are paid by over 250 college football teams to scout for them. So follow me on Twitter, Clint_Cosgrove, and then subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of the recruiting tips that I will give in past and future videos. Today's topic that I'm going to talk about is the spring eval period. It's coming up here in less than a month. Now, a lot of people have heard what it is, but aren't really familiar with what goes on during the spring evaluation period. So what I'm going to do is go over the basic rules, key events that occur during the spring evaluation period. And then I'm going to give you a brief perspective from a coach's view, what they're trying to accomplish during the spring eval period. And then I will finish with a couple tips, things that you can help yourself with during the spring evaluation period to maybe help your recruitment. So what is the spring evaluation period? And I'm going to cover this from a Division I perspective, but it's what it says in the title. This is a time for coaches to go on the road, visit high schools, workouts, and evaluate prospective athletes, prospective recruits. And it's just right around the corner. It's starting April 15th and it goes till May 31st. So basic rules are each Division I team gets 168 evaluation days. The service academies, they get 216, I believe. And what I mean by that is each day that a coach is on the road, that counts as one of the evaluation days. So if you have one coach on the road for a day, that's one evaluation day. If you have three coaches on the road in the same day, that counts as 3 evaluation days. So they have 168 of those total, okay? During that time, you're allowed to hit pretty much each high school twice. And the first time is considered an academic evaluation, and the second is supposed to be an athletic evaluation. Now, kind of the loophole in that is if a coach can, gather transcripts, do an academic evaluation, and then also get an athletic evaluation in the same day, they really get 2 opportunities to do an athletic evaluation. Okay. Now, each time a coach goes to a school or an event, it counts as one of those evaluations for all prospective student athletes that are at that school or at that event. So, if you are not at school on a day that a coach shows up, you're missing out. Okay, that counts as one of the days. So make sure you're in school, and I'll kind of cover that later. But you do not want to miss out. Now, a lot of coaches will make appointments, but a lot will just show up, and you have to be prepared, and you should be in school every day during this period. All right. Now, coaches are not allowed to actually sit down and have a conversation with you during this period. There's something called the bump rule, where if you were to accidentally walk into a coach in the hallway, they can kind of say hi, shake your hand, and that sort of thing. But really what they're doing at the school is they're meeting with the coach, getting names, and then they'll be going to a lot of workouts and stuff. So they'll be evaluating you there. It's a chance to get an in-person evaluation, to eyeball a kid. And as we know, film doesn't always tell the full story, so it's a really important part of the recruiting process. All right. One thing that you'll notice during the spring evaluation period is no head coaches are allowed on the road. I believe it was a few years back where they said that no head coaches can go on the road. So if you're surprised that a school that's really into you doesn't have the head coach come to school, don't take it personally. They're just not allowed to go. One of the other big things that happens during this period is for juniors. So starting April 15th to May 31st, each school is allowed to give you 1 phone call. This is the first time that college coaches can give you a call. Okay, now back in the day, that was a really big thing before social media and text messaging and everything like that. Because this might be the first time that you had an opportunity to really talk with a coach and conversate. Nowadays, with direct messaging, Twitter, and all of that, they can DM you and tell you to call and that sort of thing. So it's not as important from that perspective, but one thing it is important for is you're probably going to have a good idea of who's really recruiting you and how important you are. If a school's calling you right away on April 15th, you're probably a high level prospect for them. Okay. Now every school is going to let it play out a little differently. Some may want to be the very first to talk to you, and then others, they're going to see, how spring plays out, and then maybe they want to be the last to talk to you and make that lasting impression. But it is a good way to gauge which schools are interested in you and really the urgency that they have in recruiting you. So from a coach's perspective, what is a coach trying to accomplish while going on the road during the spring evaluation period? I'd say one of the biggest things is to strengthen relationships with the high school coaches. We all know how important the high school coach is to the recruiting process, and you want to get to know these coaches really well as a coach. I made a lot of friendships over the years when I was recruiting, visiting high schools, and meeting with the high school coaches. And on the other side of it, the high school coach, they want their players to go to a place where they know that the kid's going to be taken care of. They want to send their kids to coaches that they trust. So relationship building with the high school coaches is a big part of what the college coaches are trying to accomplish during the spring evaluation period. Another big thing is being seen. All right, they're branding their college. When they come into that building, they're wearing the polo or sweater or whatever it may be with that team's logo. All right, and when they're in that school, kids are talking about it. Oh, I saw the coach from so-and-so here today. And that gets back to the players who are being recruited. It's a way to show love, and it's also a way to brand your school. So that's a really important thing, being seen in the school. One of the biggest things that you're doing during this period is this is a full evaluation of the prospect. This isn't just an athletic evaluation. I know when I was coaching and I would go on the road, I would get to the front desk to check in at the school, and I would, the secretary would usually ask, "Who are you here to see today?" And I would tell them, and it says a lot if their eyes light up and they're like, "Oh, Johnny, he's the greatest kid ever. Love him. Everybody loves him." That's a lot. That's a character evaluation. You want to see what other people in the building think of you, of the prospect. How do they treat everybody in the building? Are they a liked person? Because when you're bringing in a player to your football program, it's not just as a football player. This is somebody who is going to affect the culture of your team. And it's not just a short commitment. This is 4 to 5 years with this player. So you want to know what you're getting. So this is a full evaluation. Eyeball, physical, athletic, character. This is not just your regular athletic evaluation or film evaluation. This is where you really find out what you may be getting if you bring a football, a college athlete, or a high school player onto your team. All right. And then one of the other big things is, back in the day, this spring evaluation period was more towards just juniors. With the way recruiting is sped up at the Division I level, they have a pretty good idea of who they're there to look at juniors wise, but they're also going to be looking for underclassmen. Okay. And you'll see a lot of junior offers go out. But more and more, you're going to see a lot of freshman and sophomore offers go out during the spring evaluation period, because a lot of schools want to be the first to offer, want to be the first to evaluate, and this is a great time to do it. Now that you know what the spring evaluation period is and what coaches are looking for, what are some things that you can do during the spring eval period to help yourself as a prospect? So in the first video, I talked about your highlight film being your resume for college coaches, kind of the first impression. Well, the spring eval period, when the college coaches are at your high school, you got to think of this as like your initial interview. Okay? This is a lot of the times the first impression that a coach gets of you in person. And you want to be at school, you want to look the part, and I'm not saying dress up, but look nice. And when you have a chance to meet a coach or bump into them in the hall, have some energy, look them in the eye, shake their hand. You are trying to make a great first impression. And you got to remember, a lot of time these coaches are on the road seeing kids that they've offered. If they don't like what they see, at school or something like that, that offer isn't always there forever. So it's important to make a really good impression when you are getting visited by coaches during the spring eval period. Another thing you can do is have some clear communication with your high school coach. All right, let them know that you are interested in playing college football before this spring eval period comes, so the coaches do know when they come to school. Let them know it's important to you. And you really want to communicate throughout the whole period with your coach, kind of finding out which schools are coming to see you. And so you are prepared every day that coaches are going to be there. Okay? And that's a really important thing, because your coach is kind of your lifeline to these college coaches during this spring eval period and the recruiting process as a whole. All right, now you got to come prepared every day. So we talked about coaches making appointments. A lot of the time you're going to know beforehand, but sometimes they might just drop in. And for an example, a lot of colleges, they want to see quarterbacks throw in person before they give them an offer. Well, the spring eval period is a big time for coaches to watch quarterbacks throw in person. Let's say that you didn't think any coaches were coming today and you didn't really prepare for the day, and then all of a sudden coach shows up and it might be your only opportunity to throw for them. So you have to be prepared, okay? And that can go for any position, but I was using quarterback as an example. All right, and then I would say throughout the spring eval period, and at the very end, evaluate where you are in the recruiting process. If you thought you were a Division I prospect and no coaches really showed some interest in you, it didn't really have anybody coming through, you might want to reevaluate where you are as a prospect. And whether you're a surefire D1 or D3 prospect, doesn't matter. Treat all the coaches the same, all right? They're not always going to end up being at the same school. D3 can go to D1, and the opposite can happen. It's important to make good relationships with all coaches, and coaches are friends. They talk to each other, okay? As a D1 coach has friends that are D3 coaches, D2 coaches, and they share information. Maybe a D2 coach really likes you, but he's like, hey coach, this kid's really good. I'm going to tell my buddy at this bigger school about him because I really think that's the level that he's at. And that's kind of how this process works. And then if you leave spring evaluation period with a lot of offers, great. You can decide maybe where you're going on official visits, or you can see what schools maybe you're still looking for an offer from and decide to go to their camp. And then, a lot of kids are going to be in the situation where they like you and they're going to continue to recruit you, call you, talk to you, but they're not really ready to pull the trigger and offer yet. And then based off that feedback, schools might want to get you in camp. So you want to use everything that you learn throughout the spring evaluation period of where you are in your recruitment to really decide probably what camps you want to go to, what official visits, if you're in that situation and do have offers. But it's really a great time to assess where you are as a recruit. So I hope you liked the video. In the next video, I'll kind of talk about deciding which camps to go to and some tips that can help you when going to camps. But follow me on Twitter, Clint_Cosgrove. Subscribe to this channel, and I will continue to put out videos that can help you learn about the recruiting process and also learn things to help yourself during the recruiting process.